Oh, hello world. My name is Stephen Walker and welcome to A Walker in the Woods. Let's take a quick look here before I give you the topic of the day. But I'm out here in nature. Let's look around. Nothing in this forest grows in a straight line. No tree asks permission to twist up towards the sun. None of these rocks check in with zoning laws before resting where they want or were formed. Everything here is asymmetrical. It is wild. And it is unrepeatable. And now let's take a look over here. Down below is Napo, new city where I live. It's a smart city. Human culture. Down there is all boxes. Square city blocks, square apartments. And they keep popping up every day. And dare I say, square thoughts. Up here, there is an overwhelming order out of the seeming chaos of nature. Everything seems to be in its right place. But down below, what looks like order is chaotic as hell. Especially when you start talking to people and getting inside of that universe that lies inside their craniums. Today I'm going to explore the topic that was once posed by Terence McKenna. Terence McKenna, he died in 2000. He was an American. He was a writer, philosopher, ethnobotanist, and a psychonaut. A psychonaut is someone who liked to go on trips in their brain, in their mind. He was a space cowboy. He was known as the Timothy Leary of the 90s. He died in 2000. And he posed a question, or he gave a statement in one of his speeches. He was a public speaker, and a brilliant one at that. But in one of his speeches, he said, "The culture is not your friend." Now, Terence McKenna died in the year 2000, and that was before 9/11 hit. And in my mind, 9/11 really changed the dynamic of the planet in a lot of different ways. Not only America, all around, all throughout, all over the earth. Every continent was affected in some way. He died before COVID. I'm sure he's probably happy about that one. He mentioned AI, but he obviously isn't around to see the real effects that it is having and will have in the near future. And with AI also, the whole digital currency thing, the crypto, the Bitcoin, the XRP, the CBDC, the central bank digital currency that could potentially get a chip in you. And if you're a bad boy or a naughty girl and you don't toe the party line, then they can easily turn that fucker off. But I'm going to take a closer look at McKenna's quote about culture is not your friend. And what is culture? The definition of culture is the arts and other manifestations of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively. I think the key word there is collectively. Culture. Is it organic? I don't think so. Parts of it might be. But let's take a look. I've got two fairly long quotes by Terence McKenna, and the first one goes like this. We have the money, the power, the medical understanding, the scientific know-how, the love, and the community to produce a kind of human paradise. Now take a look. Nature is paradise. We already have paradise. Do we not? Now only if we can get along down below and return to this paradise lost, maybe we'll be able to save ourselves from ourselves. But he continues, but we are led by the least among us, the least intelligent, the least noble, the least visionary, and we do not fight back against the dehumanizing values that are handed down as control icons. All of our politicians and the supposed Hollywood stars, the icons, the people that are put in front of us to tell us how to think, what to think, and tell us when we're not thinking correctly. The social media influencers, the advertising. The second quote is one that is even a bit more powerful in my opinion, but this is where he says that, quote, culture is not your friend. Culture is for other people's convenience and the convenience of various institutions, churches, companies, tax collection schemes, what have you. It is not your friend. It insults you. It disempowers you. It uses and abuses you. So today I want to take a deeper dive into Terence's thoughts here. And to begin with is the institutions and systems. So the main institution that we're that we're exposed to as a child is school, education. So is school about learning or social conditioning? If you remember kindergarten, can you think back that far? I can, still. But kindergarten was colorful. You walked into that room and it was colorful as hell. Animals, shapes, all different colors, red squares and blue circles and yellow diamonds on the wall. Crayons, painting, nap time, and only half a day, or half a school day. But then once we got out of kindergarten, the indoctrination begins. You have to wake up, get on the big yellow bus, go to class, the bell rings, class starts. You have to raise your hand to ask a question, raise your hand to go to the toilet, listen for the bell when it's time for lunch or recess, and then get in line. And then finally, take an exam. Take many exams. Let's see how you rank amongst your peers. But what are these tests testing? Were they testing your creativity, your IQ, or just what you memorized and can regurgitate? And was easy for the teacher to go through and grade one test, 3 minutes. I know, I'm a teacher. I don't like grading tests any more than students like taking them. But it's mostly left brain. It's all about left brain and merit. Total merit system. So once you get through elementary school, junior high, get into high school, same concept, just keeps going. Testing. Testing, testing. Can you hear me? Testing. And then you get into well, if you want, I mean, you're kind of told, hey, now it's time to go to college, university. I'm trying to look for a place in the shade and out of the wind. But university's a whole different dynamic. Now, unless you're lucky, you get to go into debt. But hey, everybody's doing it. So you spend 4 years partying, skipping class, and piling up a massive amount of loans. That's pretty smart, isn't it? Not everybody. But I'm guilty to a point. Once you get your degree, now you have to go out and find a job. Hopefully that's related to your degree, but there's a very large percentage of people that never even work in the field that they studied for. But after university, you have to go out and find a job. Now you're an adult, and hopefully you can find a job that'll pay your rent and your car and your fuel and your food bill and your electricity, and pay off that loan. You have become a cog in the machine, and you can't get out of that machine because you're in debt. They got you by the short and curlies. Religion and ritual is the next one. So, religion. There are many different denominations, religions out there, but are they gateways to transcendence, or just another method of control? Now, I personally believe in God, a source, a creator, but I still have a difficult time going into a building that they call a church, or a cathedral, or a synagogue, or a temple, or any of that. Any of the man-made stuff. I don't know what it is, but man-made buildings to honor something that is all around you, the creation that is all around you and in you, kind of seems a bit unholy, fake, contrived. Order. They need your money. Work and economy. So you get out of college, or you don't go to college, you get a good blue-collar job and make more money than most people that do have a degree. But work, is your career a reflection of your passion? Is it something that you wanted to do since you were a child? Something that you desired? Or is it a product of economic necessity and cultural pressure? I don't know too many children that have a childhood dream of going into an office and sitting at a cubicle all day, shuffling papers from one file cabinet to the other. I never wanted to be a teacher, ever. That was the last thing on my mind. But here I am. You got to pay the bills. Back in the day, work, employment was a means to an end. After the Korean War, the men came home and worked. They were the primary breadwinner. And the wives stayed home and reared the children and cleaned the house and cooked. But then came along the 1970s, and Gloria Steinem, who also was a cultural influencer at that time, pushed for women's liberation. Is it a good thing, a bad thing? I would say yes and yes. Like everything in this universe, there's always going to be something good and something bad. But the bad thing I'm going to focus on here, yes, women got liberation and they were now going out into the workforce. And if that's what they deem as good, then okay, I'll say I'm happy for you. But with them now out working, there's no one home to take care of the children. So the children become wards of the state. The education system gets them. Get in line, raise your hand. Ask to go to the bathroom, boy. And now, the man and the woman, dual income. Well, that's good, isn't it? More money. But then the money's going out to daycare for their children, or education, maybe a private education if they can afford it. But most importantly, the government now gets a dual income tax bracket. They get to tax both income earners. Good for Big Brother and bad for the nuclear family. In the 20s, 30s, 40s, into the 50s, there's a man named Edward Bernays. And if you've never heard of him, he's known as the father of public relations. And he was a nephew of Sigmund Freud. I presume everyone's heard of Sigmund Freud. But Edward Bernays, the father of public relations and a key figure in the development of propaganda techniques. Public relations, propaganda, there's a fine line between the two. A bit blurry, a bit fuzzy there. But Edward Bernays, he applied psychological principles to influence public opinion. So again, blurring the line between propaganda and public relations. He created a want or need in the consumer's mind, targeting their deepest desire. Advertising 101. What's the first rule of advertising? Do you know? What sells the most product? It's 3 letters, and it begins with S and it ends with X. And again, think of deeper or deepest desire. It's sex. Edward Bernays was on a lot of different, he did a lot of different campaigns for different companies and the government and other governments. But one that I'll just share, just to kind of let you know how advertising works and shaping, forming public opinion. Lucky Strike was, and probably still is, a cigarette brand. And back in the day, it was a dark green package. And if we go back to the 1920s, not a lot of women smoked. And it was actually prohibited to be like smoking outside and whatnot. It was mostly a male kind of thing. But Lucky Strike wanted to pull in that other market. Got a lot of men smoking these ciggies, but how do we get the women hooked? So Bernays concocted a scheme in which, okay, first let's figure out why they don't like Lucky Strike, and it turns out that the dark green package was not in. It wasn't a fad. It wasn't popular. So he talked to, I believe, a pretty prominent magazine, some kind of media outlet that reached a lot of people, and they basically took that dark green color and turned it fashionable. They changed the color of the new fad in clothing to a dark green. to match that carton. And then as the women would see, oh, this is the new color, this is what's in, and they were also pushing these cigs. And so click in the brain, it's like, well, hey, I want to be popular. I want to, you know, Susie's over there in her dark green gown, pulling a ciggy out of that dark green box. And look at all the men around her. I want that too. Edward Bernays, I'm going to give you 2 quotes. I like quotes. Kind of sums things up. But Edward Bernays said that propaganda is the executive arm of the invisible government. He worked with the government quite a bit, just as Disney did, and a lot of these big companies, they worked with the CIA and the government, especially during the wartime effort. Donald Duck goes to war, Mickey Mouse fights the Nazis, Goofy is Goofy. The second quote is by Bernays: people want to go where they want to be led. So again, if you don't know where you're going, if you don't have a strong mind and a future kind of goal of what you want to do, who you want to be, from an early age, really, they'll get you. And they will lead you and then ultimately tell you what you're going to be doing. And all the while, you thought it was your own free will. So Edward Bernays, you know, were his techniques good advertising, or was it just brainwashing? Advertising. This brings me to another semi-famous man. Many of you might know who he is if you're in your 40s, late 30s, into your 50s, 60s. Bill Hicks. In my opinion, Bill Hicks is the numero uno comedian of all time, far surpassing George Carlin, Dave Chappelle, any of these cats out there. Bill Hicks, he's timeless. His humor was timeless, and he was unapologetic. And I'm going to give you an example. Bill Hicks is speaking of advertising, and he's on stage and he asks the audience, or tells the audience, if anyone here is in advertising or marketing, kill yourself. No, I'm serious. Kill yourself. Just trying to plant some seeds. Hopefully something will grow. Suck a tailpipe, hang yourself. There's no rationalization for what you do, and you are Satan's little helpers. Quit putting a $sign on everything on this planet. That is advertising. Is it not? Everything on this planet, with the exception of this chaotic nature that I'm sitting in, so far, this is free. I haven't spent a dime today. But everything down below, if you want water, if you want to travel, if you want to watch television, if you want to cook, if you want to live in one of those boxes, then you better open up the purse strings. Advertising is closely wed with fast food. McDonald's, I'm loving it. KFC, finger licking good. Pepsi, a choice of a new generation. Coke, have a Coke and a smile. Nike, just do it. Slogans that stick in your brain, and logos that are popular and everybody wants one on their shirt or on their shoes, and you're cool if you have one, and if you don't, well, who are you? But fast food, so, you know, who sells the burgers there? It's Ronald McDonald. A happy clown with red shoes. Joe Camel back in the day, speaking of cigarettes and Lucky Strike, Joe Camel on the Camel cigarettes. Here's this cool camel wearing a pair of sunglasses, and his big old snout, his nose looks like a cock and balls. That was not a mistake, people. I mean, you know, go take a look at that cat, that camel. The Burger King had a king, just like McDonald's had a clown. Disney, they've got their mouse. And if you look into a lot of their little films, they also have a lot of sexual innuendos in their films. Subliminal messaging, such as sex written in the clouds in the sky. The Lion King's nose also is very sexual looking. Looks like the kind of S-shaped curve of a woman wearing a G-string. On one of the films, there's a preacher, and he's got a boner. I don't know. I didn't do it, but it's there for all with the eyes to see. Then we're going to look at fashion trends. So obviously, you know, generally people's taste in things change. I don't listen to the same music that I used to. Well, I kind of do. If I listen to music anymore, I don't listen to music that much anymore, honestly. It used to be a really big part of my life as a younger fella. But it's kind of interesting to look at the decades and how kind of the zeitgeist changes within 10 years. So if you go back to the 20s, I don't know, what was it, the roaring 20s? The 30s, the 40s. Now I remember more of the 50s. Now I wasn't born until the 70s, but the 50s were, you know, hot rods and women with these hula hoop skirts, these long skirts, and the cardigan sweaters, and the leather jackets, and the slick back hair, you know. A good image, kind of. You had your bad boys. And then the 60s come along and you have the flower children. Everything, I mean, it really changes pretty quickly. Almost as if it's done on purpose. And throughout the 60s, it starts getting a bit more psychedelic, and the bell bottoms and the flower shirts and the hippy dippy kind of scene takes over. The fad, the fashion. And then the United States gets them involved with the Gulf of Tonkin into the Gulf, or into the Vietnam War. The Gulf of Tonkin, the admiral on that ship was the father of, guess what, 60s icon, Jim Morrison. Jim Morrison of the Doors. His father was an admiral. Can I say the word? Who wasn't admirable, but he was an admiral on this ship that just so happened to be hit in the Gulf of Tonkin, Vietnam, and that's what got America into the Vietnam War that lasted for upwards of 10 years, killing millions and millions of Vietnamese and American boys and girls. But anyways, we're talking about fashion, Stevie. Focus. The 80s became kind of the disco era. Real shit hairdos, big bands, hair bands. And then you go into the 90s and you have more of the Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Alice in Chains all came up around that era. Every 10 years it seems like the music changes and the fashion changes along with the music. But since the 2000s, I don't know, I really haven't noticed what kind of zeitgeist is happening in regards to fashion. I'm over here in Korea and I don't really follow it. It seems to be pretty casual these days with what students come walking into class with, wearing pajamas and even curlers in their hair. It's like they're going back to being a housewife. maybe that'll come. Maybe that'll be the next trend, is being a housewife. Housewives are cool again. Porn is everywhere. Now, why is porn everywhere, and why is it free? Back in my day, I used to ride a bicycle and look under a bridge, and if I could find a magazine, that was a happy day. It was a real happy day. And it got me to exercise, because I left that magazine there. And I have to go visit it every day or two. But now porn is everywhere. You can't escape it. And it's free. I wonder why. I don't know. But as the economy gets worse, I think people's morals also get worse. And they start doing things that they generally wouldn't do. And speaking of porn, and speaking of a terrible economy, and speaking of lower morals, there's a thing called OnlyFans. Now, the people on here, primarily women, I assume, are making thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, I'm not judging any of them. And honestly, I've never looked at it. I don't know, but I hear about OnlyFans. And I presume it's mostly about getting naked. Why would people be paying money to watch a woman or a man get naked when all this porn is free? I don't know. But hey, you're paying someone's bills, so I guess you're doing your part in the economy, keeping that dollar moving. But going back to fashion, with fashion also came cars. Every decade had a different type of car. The 50s, the big old 57 Chevys, these big old tanks that were badass. And then the 60s, you got muscle cars. Even into the 70s, they had character. These cars had character. The 80s, they started losing character, just like people's hairdos and fashion went downhill. It might have been the cocaine, I don't know. The disco and the cocaine might have really put a wrench in people's organic creativity. Or the machine was just pumping up, the old torque wrench, where it's like you let it go and let people kind of be free, and then you slowly crank it in and tighten the noose. Now, cars in Korea have almost no character. The majority of cars that you see are two colors, maybe three. Number one is either black or white, and Koreans love the colors black and white. And then gray. Gray would probably be number three. And you can count yourself lucky if you see a red, a blue, a green, a burnt orange, or any of these other cars. They're all black and white. Pretty boring. I have to put stickers on the back of my car just so I know which one is mine, because it looks just like everyone else's fucking car. But if you start, talking about, hey, why is porn for free, and why do we all follow these fashions, and education is indoctrination, you will be hushed up quickly by mainstream, by people calling you out as a nutter, or even worse, a conspiracy theorist. You're a conspiracy theorist. This is just an organic, natural kind of way that people live, and there's nothing to see here. Move on. Another fairly famous author back in the Jack Kerouac beatnik days was William Burroughs, and he had a pretty good quote on culture, society. money, the money machine. And he says, what does the money machine eat? It eats youth, spontaneity, life, beauty, and above all, it eats creativity. It eats quality and shits quantity. That's pretty much modern culture in a nutshell. Pump out a bunch of shit for cheap. Thank you, China. And it breaks. And then you have to buy a new one. You can't fix anything anymore. It's a disposable society, and a lot of these, it's called planned, not planned obsolescence. I think it is planned obsolescence. Basically, if you buy a mixer, it has a little widget on the bottom, and it's made out of plastic, and that thing is designed to break down after probably about 6 months use, and you can't replace it, you can't fix it, you have to buy a new one. Keep that money circulating as they keep printing more. It's all about quantity and not quality. And so there's culture in the digital age, and that's the algorithm. And that algorithm, man, I mean, they've got it down to a T. You'll be lucky if you even see this video, let alone any video that the algorithm doesn't deem fit for you to watch. Do the algorithms now shape who we are and what we value? It's a good question. Do we have a choice what videos are pushed on us? To a degree, I would say yes. But the algorithm is busy mapping your brain, personality, your fetishes, your likes and your dislikes. Fact. And then there's viral conformity. So these algorithms are pushing out, if you click that you like this one video and hey, there's a challenge that was kind of humorous, I think that's funny, I'll like it. And so all of these trends and memes and challenges, the ice bucket, the Tide Pod thing, the cinnamon challenge, there's a new one now. I just saw this morning a headline about teenagers kicking the fronts of doors. Now, I mean, when I was young, I got up to a lot of no good as well. Driving around neighborhoods, you're bored and you're in the middle of nowhere. You're gonna do shit. And that's natural. But when people see it and start to repeat it, copy it, we aren't thinking for ourselves anymore. We're just following a trend or a fad. And that's sad. Data mined desires. So what you want might not be what you want. Let that sink in. What you want might not be what you want. It might be what was sold to you. Product placement, snappy slogans, logos, the whole thing. It's not organic. You're a trained monkey to go out and buy a 30-pack of Coca-Cola, a family-sized bag of nacho Doritos, and stuff yourself until you're 50 pounds overweight and wonder what the hell happened to your life. So I like getting out into nature. And since I've been doing this YouTube thing, I've done it every day, and that means that I get to get up and go out into nature and take a hike and get some exercise, some fresh air. You know, animals in nature, even domesticated, your cat, your dog, they don't need branding or image management or social media likes. They don't do PR. They're just there, man. They just like taking naps and eating and shitting. What does it mean to be uncivilized? Is that closer to being real? Civilized doesn't really seem to be too civilized. People are fighting and honking and yelling at each other and fighting over a missing condiment at the drive-through, you know, that's not civilized. So how do we liberate ourselves from culture? If you go McKenna's way, you take those psychedelics, the psilocybin. He went way out there. Went into chaos, and so far into chaos, he probably came across divine order. Something that I am doing is fasting. Fasting from food. It's a water day fast, and I am on day 6 today. And now I am down to 86.7 kilogram from 91.3. So that means I've lost 4.6 kilo, which is about 10 pounds in 6 days. But I'm also trying to fast from social media and read the Bible, meditate a bit more, exercise, and do these videos. But silence and solitude are also important to deplug, unplug, deprogram from culture. Unplug from the societal feedback loop. And then creating your own culture. Is it possible? Can one person live a life of meaning outside of the dominant narrative? I'm getting into, when I do watch videos, I'm getting into all of these kind of homesteading people, or people that are out in nature building cabins and having fires and having 1 or 2 big old dogs that follow them around, and making simple but delicious food. That is my new dream. That is what I want. No social media, no electricity. I lived in Africa for 2 years in a mud hut. I know how to do it. I know I will survive. And I know I can survive without food for an extended period of time. Unplugging, that's my new dream. That's my plan. Hopefully one day I'll make it work. But to sum it up, in its perfect state, nature is perfectly chaotic. Chaos is all around me, man. There are no straight lines. Everything's crooked and growing up and growing and dying all at the same time, but it's absolutely perfect. It's beautiful. There's no symmetry, just raw balance. Culture, on the other hand, let's take another look. As it's windy. The culture down there, it fears chaos. It trims it, it disciplines it, it sterilizes it. But in doing so, it often kills that wild creativity, that chaos that makes possible. But in doing so, it often kills the wild creativity that chaos makes possible. Again, Korea in particular, there is not a lot of creativity in these young children's minds. They are hooked on computer games. They are hooked on sleeping. They are hooked on study. Well, they're not hooked on studying. They're forced to study. It's in their society. Education is respected, and I can respect that to a certain degree. But when it's taken to the nth degree, psychotic almost, and people are killing themselves, children are killing themselves over having to study longer hours than most adults work, there's a problem. Culture is most definitely not their friend. So again, just take a look at this mountain and listen to it. This mountain has no blueprint, never had a blueprint, but somehow it's more beautiful than anything that we have ever designed. Taj Mahal. Whew. Pick any building at all. That silver one down there is a monstrosity. All of those apartment buildings are monstrosities. There's nothing that comes close to what nature does naturally. So I guess if culture isn't your friend, maybe nature is. Turn it off. Turn off, tune out, and drop into nature. And if anyone out there has actually watched this video all the way to the end, I'm going to have to say this. Number one, thank you. And if you have tuned in and turned on, then please drop me one of these and consider subscribing. I'm not going to stop. I don't know if I'll do it every day, but I am digging it. It is my own therapy, and if anybody else out there gets anything from it, then that's a win-win for both of us. So until then, until the next time, until tomorrow, I'm going to leave you with a moment of Zen. Ciao for now.